Even after partying for more than a decade, Mario's still ready to throw down at a moment's notice. But are the rest of us ready? After all, each of the previous Mario parties have been pretty similar in concept. That is, everyone takes turns rolling dice and working their way around the board before taking on their opponents in a minigame at the end of each turn. But somewhere around the time of Mario Party 3, the charm just started to wear off for me, and it only became more apparent with each subsequent Mario Party. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. Which is probably why Nintendo really changed things up for Mario Party 9, as it's by far the most unique game in the series yet. Sure, you're still rolling dice and moving spaces, but that's just about where the similarities end. See that car there? Yeah, you're riding in it, and so is everyone else too. This is probably the biggest change to the game, as you no longer control your character individually. Instead, you take turns being captain, which gives you control of almost everything that happens during your turn, such as rolling dice, deciding what path to take, and even choosing what minigames to play. And everyone else is along for the ride, whether they want to or not. And instead of going around the board for a preset amount of turns like before, the game now ends as soon as your vehicle reaches the boss space at the end of the map. That's right, I said boss. Each of the game's 7 stages contain both a mid-boss as well as a final boss, which everyone battles together via a minigame unique to each one. And speaking of the minigames, they're back in full force with 80 brand new ones. But they kinda take a bit of a backseat to the board game in this one. Unlike before where you used to play a minigame every round, you now only play when you land on a specific minigame space. Or if you get lucky, one might appear randomly from time to time. What this means is that it's now entirely possible to play through an hour-long game and only play a handful of minigames, whereas in the originals you will play at least 20 at an absolute minimum. It's a little bit weird that the minigames, which used to be the meat of any Mario Party game, have been relegated to second-tier status. This now places a much greater emphasis on the board game itself, as that's where you'll be spending most of your time. And that actually wouldn't be such a bad idea, if there were more strategy involved. The problem is that, since you're only controlling the vehicle a quarter of the time if you're playing with 4 people, you simply don't have enough influence on the game as a whole. And what little influence you do have often just comes down to rolling the dice. Literally. Of course, luck has always been a big part of Mario Party, but it's nearly the entirety of the experience here. Now, the game does attempt to throw in some strategy by allowing you to use different kinds of dice, such as ones that roll only low or high numbers. This enables you to potentially avoid upcoming hazards by rolling low, or hurrying to the finish if you're in first place to lessen the chance of losing your lead. The problem though is that you have to land on specific spaces in order to find these special dice blocks, which means if you're not rolling the right numbers, you may never land on one. And even if you do, the type of dice block you get, you guessed it, is decided randomly. Winning or losing really does come down mostly to luck, except in the minigames themselves, which are the highlight of the experience. Games such as the Mario Kart-like speeding bullets or the puzzling manner of escape are a lot of fun and feel fresh for even Mario Party, which is saying something. But the game does rely a little too heavily on events that demand pressing the buttons displayed on screen as quickly as possible, which can become tiring. Many of the games also lack the very competitive feeling of the best from Mario Party 1 and 2, which is due to how the games are set up, where the players are competing mostly indirectly. It's a very subtle change, but one that longtime fans will notice. All in all, I admire Mario Party 9 for trying to be different, but I can't help but be reminded of a scene from Jurassic Park: The Lost World. You know, the one where the founder of the dinosaur park was like, "Don't worry, I'm not making the same mistakes again," and Jeff Goldblum's character was like, "No, you're making all new ones?" That's how I feel about Mario Party 9. In its attempts to be different, it's muddled the core gameplay to a point where winning or losing has almost no meaning. After all, how invested can you be when your fate is dictated by chance and happenstance? To the game's credit, there are several additional modes that place a greater focus on the minigames and less on pure luck, though they're not very deep and lack the replayability of the boards themselves, even with the luck factor. But additional modes or not, the core of the game lacks the intensity the early Mario parties became famous for. With that said, there's still fun to be had, just not a ton of it, which is why I'm giving the multiplayer 3 out of 5 stars. Now you can play the game single player too, where you take on CPU opponents instead of human ones. But this is really more tedious than anything, as Mario Party 9 is really built around playing with friends. And even with the added story elements, there simply isn't enough there to keep you entertained for long, which is why I'm giving the single player 2 out of 5 stars. Hopefully you enjoyed our video review of Mario Party 9. For more on this game, as well as others, head over to GameXplain.com.